as we take a closer look at Queensland Raceway, and incidentally Sebastian Bourdais on provisional pole up at Edmonton. 6 corners the layout here, 3 kilometres around this racetrack. Garth Tander has the official lap record. You can see it's quite a simple layout. There's a number of bumps, big ones down at 1, also at 3. But the critical area around this racetrack, if you want to stitch together a decent time, is carrying mid-corner speed through turn number 2. There are a few little bumps beginning to appear there, and frequently you see people run out of room on the exit. If you can make a good solid exit out of there, get the throttle in hard and early, you can run down the back straight and get a free kick all the way down into turn number 3. So that'll be something we focus on in our coverage as we look here at Mark Winterbottom, position 5. Row number 3 in qualifying, and probably a little bit disappointed based on the speed that he had yesterday. Lots of people find themselves chasing all sorts of setup issues around this track with a couple of very quick corners through 1 and 2 and then slow turns through 3 and 6. You can see the layout there, a few bumps to contend with as well. And when you look at how tight the time fractions are, Matthew, down the order, you only had to literally blink and you could be either in the first half dozen or well and truly out of it.
And if you saw the flags off in the distance beforehand, you'll probably see that the wind has changed around a bit throughout the qualifying session. It was coming from the south, and now it's coming from the east, so it's cutting across the track from the left-hand side, but really terrific conditions and a big crowd in here to watch this round 7, race 1 of the V8 Supercar Championship. And let's check out the Fuso start grid. For the 6th different time, we'll have a different pole sitter in the 7 rounds here. Jamie Whincup from P1, Mark Scaife, the 5th time he's been on the front row at Queensland Raceway, but never pocketed pole. And then it's Garth Tander and James Courtney. Mark Winterbottom, his best effort at this track. Craig Lowndes is a 6-time race winner here, a 3-time round winner, won more rounds than anybody else. Will Davison finds himself alongside the championship leader, Rick Kelly. And rounding out the top 10, Russell Ingall, 2-time round winner on this track. And Todd Kelly, a 2-time pole sitter this season, will start from position 10. Then Canto and Richards.
Both the drivers from the Toll HSV dealer team reported quite a considerable change in the balance of their cars when they went to their new tyre sets in period 3 of qualifying, and that certainly made life tricky for them. Stephen Johnson really had the same issues. He's not getting a proper read on the car as he'd like it as he puts his good tyres on the car.
Just want to tell you something about what happened to Paul Morris, who's there in 20th position. Actually had ended up finishing that qualifying session without his rear windscreen. They tell me that he copped a rock in the front windscreen, it bounced over, hit the rear spoiler, and then ricocheted back into the rear. So the whole thing was left out, and of course that upsets the aerodynamics of the car, and he found himself in 20th position. Then Jason Bright, Greg Murphy there, positions 25 and 26. And here's the rear of the grid. Steve Ellery replacing Fabian Coulthard for this round. He's gearing up, Steve, for the Enduros. And Paul Wheel, as we know, is replacing Paul Dumbrell in the Super Cheap Auto car number 20. So it's a 30-car grid, 120 Ks. Just wonder what type of start we're going to see. Whincup with his first ever pole position versus the experienced man beside him, Mark Scaife.
Just a reminder that those green lights that you can see in behind the windscreen of the cars are the lights that demonstrate to us that the guys either have or have not taken their compulsory pit stop. Obviously nobody's done it at this point, and that window opens on lap 5. Then the lights are switched off. First of 3 sprint races this weekend, 38 laps the duration. And I made reference earlier in the coverage in qualifying that if you're going to have a lunge at somebody today, you're going to need to be very careful up the inside at turns 3 or 6, where offline it's pretty dirty.
Neil, just before he hopped in the car, I said to Jamie Whincup, how are your starts? He said, oh, not all that good. First race on a weekend, they're normally a bit dodgy. I said, no pressure. He said, I just can't afford to bugger this up.
The boys from Team Vodafone have got one of their biggest fans here this weekend, John Collins from Powderfinger. He's a big V8 supercar fan. Normally goes to Indy, has come this weekend because while Indy's on, Powderfinger will be touring. Both the boys, both Jamie Whincup and Craig Lowndes, have Powderfinger's song Lost and Running on their ringtones on their Vodaphones.
Don't want to bash it out for us, do you, Brett?
Not right now, Matt, thanks.
Okay. This is who we'll be on board with throughout this race. In-car cameras, they're scattered in and outside the cars. Cam McConville will take us racing in his brand new VE. Car number 50. You saw before Max Wilson, the WOW Racing Ford. Here's Russell Ingall. Got a glint back in his eye, I reckon. They've had a couple of bad rounds. Stone Brothers Racing. Rick Kelly. 336 championship points, been in the championship lead since round 2 in WA. A round, in fact, that his teammate won from go to woe, but Rick finished ahead of him on points. And there's Craig Lowndes, a three-time winner here.
With all this light on the circuit, all the sunlight on the circuit, not a cloud in sight, track temperature's 28 degrees. Across the 5 cars that we have onboard cameras with, we've got 25 different cameras in those cars. Amazing, so we've got all the angles covered.
And one on top of the WPS Chrysler safety car. So here's Scaife, 3 race wins, 1 overall victory and 7 race podiums so far for the season.
Keep going, keep going.
Mark was pretty happy.
Keep going, mate. Another 200 mil. More. Stop.
200 mil, please.
Every millimetre counts. He was pretty happy with the qualifying. Obviously, every bloke out there wants to be on pole position. Mark said the theoretical best that their computer was showing was a 10.1. He punched out a 10.2. He's on the front row of the grid, so it's a good-looking front row. Whincup on the inside, first pole position in his V8 supercar career, and Mark Scaife alongside. Mark has got the benefit of the slightly cleaner line there.
You know that Scaife had that shocking round at Winton where he finished 30th. The funny thing is that it didn't really damage his top 10 hopes too much. He's the only driver in the top 10 to have a non-points round.
You better not flinch. He's got those front wheels right on the white line, Mark Scaife, and if you penetrate that line, and that can be catastrophic.
Scaife is 5th in the championship, Whincup is 4th. They share the front row of the grid for race 1 of round 7. The halfway mark of the V8 Supercar Championship. And the old campaigner Scaife got the edge that time. He'll take the lead down to turn 1, muscling his way through his Garth Tander, who gives a bit of push and shove to Whincup. They've bashed him around the ears from pole position, and Jamie Whincup goes from first to 3rd.
There's trouble at turn 1, and the safety car is being told to get ready. So I saw one of the Jack Daniels cars all crossed up in the dirt there. Scaife leads, Tander's in behind, Whincup drops back to 3rd. There's still some carry on down at 2. They may have all got out of that one.
One of the Tasman Motorsport cars was in there. Good start by Scaife, really good. And Tander was just Mr. Aggressive. Here's Rick Kelly. Started in 8th position.
He's made some ground there. So Tander made a pretty handsome start. Whincup definitely slow away. They sat there for a while. It seems like an eternity when all those cars are sitting there rattling away on the rev limiter.
Around they go. A little bit of argy-bargy for Paul Morris. By my reckoning, may have made up some room himself after starting 20th. Oh, there's another bit of push and shove for Todd Kelly and one of the Valvoline Cummins cars. In fact, the other one has got trouble. So Dean Canto and Lee Holdsworth both in the thick of it. Smoke billowing out the back of the Gary Rogers Motorsport car. It's a rear left problem.
He's taking a shove down there somewhere in the incident at turn 1. Must have a guard rubbing.
Just keep going.
And Jack Perkins is reporting he's got trouble as well as Cam McConville comes in with that brand new car looking a bit second-hand. It's been christened.
1 full lap down. Mark Scaife, a standing lap, 1:17.53. Cam McConville with signs of damage at the front and rear. He has not only been christened, but sandwiched. And Jack Perkins has problems, and Jason Richards has bigger ones.
He's had a pretty tough weekend so far. He was off in the gravel trap on a couple of occasions in qualifying. It's not been a happy hunting ground for him or his team in recent years. Rick Kelly's done a quick split to the end of the second sector. This is Jack Perkins getting attention to the left rear of that car.
Let's go through this order as they cross the second completed lap. Hit lap 3, Scaife, Tander, Whincup, James Courtney, Mark Winterbottom, Craig Lowndes, Rick Kelly, Will Davison and Russell Ingall are 8th and 9th, and Todd Kelly is 10th.
Rick Kelly's done the fastest lap of the race so far at 1:12.06. They're all circulating in low 12s. Cup's got a lot of pressure on here from Courtney. Winterbottom's in there, so's Lowndes. His two leading Holdens have just skipped away a little bit in the last lap. And Courtney's gone, well, I was going to say up on the outside, but has he? Side by side through 4. This is going to get interesting at 5. They won't squeeze through there easily. It's very unusual that Courtney would find his way around the outside of Whincup. That's what made me hesitate. Thought he might have even had a problem. Lowndes buys in now. He's got a great position on Whincup. Look at this side by side, making a run down the straight. Lowndes is in good shape here. He's going to get Winterbottom without any shadow of a doubt. And Kelly as well. Kelly's going to have a piece of this. He'll be ideally positioned for 2. Whincup's in a bit of strife out there and he's on the dirty line. There's no grip at all. Look at this. Now watch him up the inside. So Kelly up the inside here, side by side. And Winterbottom squeezed completely off the edge of the road there. So really on for young and old, back in the pack.
And look at this. They go shooting past Mark Winterbottom. It's courtesy of that mistake. Oh, Davison and Ingall in there. They go by. Richards with Todd Kelly. It's panel bashing the whole way around this circuit. Mark Scaife is the leader. He's got a 0.4 second advantage. Look at Stephen Richards diving on the inside. But Kelly will get him on the crisscross. Side by side, wheel to wheel. Windows just about locked. That cannot get any closer at maximum speed up the main straight.
And Stephen wisely just slots back in behind Todd. You do not want to be on the outside down there at 1. And 11.6 for Tander. He's in position 2, and it's 0.4 of a second between Scaife and Tander.
Battle. What a great battle this is. Richards, cleaner that time. Kelly sticks it on the inside. Richards forced to go right over the edge of that ripple strip on the exit of 3, up to turn 4. The middle of the paperclip.
54.9 for Tander in the sector split to the second sector on this lap. He's got the fastest lap of the race so far. Gee, it just got a bit wild here. Now let's have a look and see what happened to...
It's Alan Gurr and one of the Team BOC cars, or both of them.
Andrew Jones, car number 12, was the other car involved. So Gurr pointing the wrong way on the exit of turn 3. It got crazy there for a couple of laps. Tander has improved the fastest lap down to 11.4. Scaife's car a little sideways in 2 that time.
Hardly had time to catch our breath and see who's gone where in terms of up and down. We know that Jamie Whincup went from pole down to 4th.
Yeah, I think that's a wise move. It looked like he could have had a little bit of extra pace on Mark. And so he's going to try and make it a quick in, service the car, get out, try and get track position. Mechanical black flag for Andrew Jones, car number 12. Must be some bodywork hanging off that car.
comes Tander.
They're doing left side.
Go.
They did this last year, I recall. A lot of people probably opted for rears.
Need a blind round that, mate. Good job.
Voice of Matty Nilsson. Looked like a pretty clean stop for them.
Looked like pretty clean for everybody that was in there. These guys that are all coming out. And Shane Price has found the dirt at the exit of turn 3.
Go around. Probably blown a tyre on it. Is it left 3?
I don't know if that was mechanical or what, but he's locked it up on the way in. And there it's a bit of a rescue mission.
Can't quite see.
Say something about the tyre?
Yeah, I think they've got a problem with the left rear wheel or tyre. I heard him talking about a deflated left rear. So he's off the side of the road there.
Okay.
Scaife's also peeled in, and here we are.
And remember when Mark Scaife came in, Garth Tander came in, there was a 0.2 second difference.
Difference in strategy, rear tyres for Scaife.
He got caught up in pit lane
Yeah, he
traffic.
had to wait. Richo will peel off in front of him, but he's had to wait. That'll be good news for Tander.
Watch your bit speed.
The traffic may have hurt Scaife here. He went for rears. Tander went for the working side, the left side. There goes Tander. I'm sure he's going to have him here.
He would have to, you'd think. Scaife goes out, Tander's got in front of him. So that's the reversal of positions. That's what happens when you take advantage and get clean time in pit lane. Good strategy, good stop, good teamwork. Everything falls into place. The bottom line is the net gain for Garth Tander is right there on your screen. Before that pit stop, it was the other way around, a 0.2 of a second difference.
So that tiny little hesitation is all it takes, while Scaife had to slot into the queue when others were also peeling in for their compulsory stop. So the green light's flicked off behind the windshield now for Tander and for Scaife. The stop's done. The leader of the race is Will Davison. Todd Kelly is second. Dean Canto is third, then Max Wilson, Jason Barguana, Steve Ellery. They're running a bit longer. And this man here is the first of the cars to have taken the stop. He's back in the queue at the moment in position 12.
We're looking at the back of Russell Ingles, Caltex Falcon. Just take a look at what the end of the main straight, the bumps here, do to the attitude of the car.
Boys, I think we saw the pictures of Stephen Richards' botched pit stop that really cost him with Tander getting out in front. They had Tim Edwards, of course, the team boss, to answer the boys in pit lane, very animated, saying, look, I did the best I could. I did this, and it ended up with people walking away with throwing their hands in the air.
There's a lot of pressure on the crews, a lot of pressure on everybody in those stops. 1/10 one way or the other makes an enormous difference. Well, this bloke got a real belting there at one stage, Mark Winterbottom.
On corrected positions with 11 guys before them still yet to do their pit stops. You're looking at a battle group for about 7th position.
Fastest lap of the race so far, Tander at 1 minute 11.1, and he did that on the last lap. His time by comparison to Scaife's was an 11.4 for Mark. So Garth was 0.3 quicker on that lap alone. Brett Kelly here, down in 15th at the moment. His last lap was a 1:12.0. So he's giving away time in real terms to those guys at the moment.
He's 5 positions behind his teammate. And there is the battle within the battle that is the championship. The 6 races that we've had since Winton, Rick Kelly has not only been so consistent with those top 4s, but he's finished ahead of Garth Tander in every single one of those races. The difference was 1 point in the championship. It drifted out to 25. Now it's out to 39. So this is a really important move for the championship picture for Garth Tander, not only to stay in front of the rest of the field, but more importantly, stay in front of his teammate.
Yeah, that was crazy. After they got to about the end of lap 2, it just was game on.
Boys, it was all happening here in the pits. It was explosive action. Mark Scave's pit time, 5.1 seconds. Garth Tander, 4.9. Those 0.2 of a second have made all the difference. Let Garth Tander get in front. Other quick times, fastest so far. James Courtney, Stone Brothers pulling it off in 4.4 seconds. Lightning fast.
Yeah, Moretz, you're absolutely right, mate. Lightning fast. I was standing here when both the Triple 8 cars came in. Lowndes did a 3.86 and rears only, and then his teammate came in with a 4-second 0.26 and did rears only. So they're amazingly fast.
It's all down to fractions. Fractions of a second make all the difference.
The significance there is the boys are talking about people changing the rears, which is what you come to expect at Queensland Raceway. But Garth Tander changed the tyres down the left side of the car, not across the rear. So he did front left and left rear. And he's still showing very good pace at the moment on board here with Russell Ingall. He's 13th at the moment. Still a bunch of people to take their stops. And they include Todd Kelly, Dean Canto, Jason Bargwanna and Jason Bright, who's had a shocker this weekend. So Russell's really not fared well in all that bump and grind stuff that was going on. But he's in a close pack there.
And he's got such an impressive record here. Only once in any qualifying session or race has he finished outside the top 10. In the history of V8 Supercars at Queensland Raceway, go back to 1999. Doubled up on a couple of years with some Enduros. So leading this pack is Will Davison. Rick Kelly's in amongst it, Mark Winterbottom, Russell Ingall. So 3 Fords there waiting to have a crack at the Commodore that leads the championship.
Well, Kim Jones, it's been a very heartbreaking start for a lot of teams, but you guys have probably copped it worse than most.
Yeah, I just can't believe the stupidity of the way decisions are made. My mate out the back here has just come across and grabbed me, and he's got me all riled up. And the reason he's got me riled up is because he says the officials here give Andrew a black flag for this piece of plastic which has been hanging off the front of the car for 4 laps. And then they give him a mechanical black flag, which means he has to come in and do a pit stop to remove that. Nothing else, can't do tyres or anything. I told them we'd pull it off in the pit stop when we come and do tyres and not lose any time, but no. As my mate says, out the back here, he reckons that, you know, they stuffed our race. They stuffed our race weekend. Now we're so far behind, we'll never get back up. And it's bloody hard. Our guys work really hard. We're having a reasonable weekend. We copped the red flag on the cheating qualifying, and then this happens. You know, no accountability. As my mate out the back here says, no accountability for officials. They just wave the flag when they want, and you have to cop it on the chin. That's the way it goes.
Not good news, Kim. Hope the weekend gets better.
Yeah, well, Team BSC's fighters, and we'll go out there and we'll do the very best we can, but it's like trying to have a prize fight with both hands tied behind your back.
All right, mate, all the best.
Thank you.
Wait. Ducking and weaving up here while he was saying that. That's the passion that Kim Jones always shows, and especially when he feels as though clearly he's been wrongly done by. A lot of hard work, and they had their 4th test day of the year, July 9 at Winton. And Andrew Jones in particular was working on starts amongst other things. They came here with all the good intentions, and according to Kim, they have been let down. Here's James Courtney, who is 6th on the road, but on corrected is in top 3.
I should point out also, as you look at the tape running across the lower frame of screen there, that when somebody has a mechanical black flag or any kind of drive-through penalty, that adds to the number of times that they've stopped in the race. So, of course, for the majority of the field, it's the compulsory pit stop that we focus on, but there'll be a few blokes that you'll find in there that may see an extra stop against their name to serve penalties or have other damage repaired.
Let's have a ride with Craig Lowndes.
Okay.
on board with Craig Lowndes. It's remarkable, isn't it? Even with the long front straight, long back straight, the two short shoots in between, they're still really busy. Todd Kelly comes in, only him and Jason Bright yet to complete their compulsory pit stop, so we can tick off Kelly and see where he rejoins the race. He started in 10th position.
Soon as the drops go, mate.
The leading group. He's been out there the longest.
Clear, mate. Watch the yellow floppies on exit.
4.39 seconds. Oh, he's trundling while 5 cars come past, 6 cars come screaming down. Where does he rejoin?
About 11th or 12th or something like that.
It'll be 11th, spot on.
Larry Perkins, you've been in this game a long time. It doesn't get easier, though, to see both cars parked in a garage while the race is going.
Especially after only about lap 2. It's a bit difficult, but yeah, both got involved in first lap incidences for some reason. I haven't seen any vision of that, and Shane had a flat tyre or slowly deflating back tyre, and it all exploded and ripped the back shocker off, so they're both not able to be fixed.
There's been a bit of panel beating of late in your team, but at least this time it's componentry as opposed to major panel damage.
Yeah, that's true. We haven't had a dream run, that's for sure, but look, we had a dream run last year where we had 7 races in a straight, never bent a car, so we're paying for it now.
Thanks, Larry.
He's been around long enough to know it goes around, comes around, and that solves the problem of what we thought with Shane Price's car. Deflating rear left. And, they're still trying to pick all the garbage out of there. Jason Bright, Fujitsu Ford, is the only man out there yet to pit. He's great website to check out all your latest sporting news, including, of course, live and on-demand V8 Supercars.
So Jason's obviously so far back in this field now that they're just making sure that all is okay. Maybe they've made an adjustment. They just need to verify its behaviour, and it sounds like they're going to just do a lap and then put this car back in the garage. Race control investigating a couple of issues at the moment. Possibility of some loose bodywork on Dean Canto's car. That'll no doubt be attached to the problems that we saw in the opening couple of corners where we saw a lot of smoke coming off his car. And also Paul Wheel in car number 20, having a look at that car as well. Jason Bright leads the motor race 4.8 seconds over Garth Tander. And Jason yet to stop trying to play a strategy game to recover from the tough weekend that he's had so far. Then Tander has got a margin over Scaife. Their speed in the first few laps after the compulsory pit stop suggested Garth had a little bit in hand, but right now it's settled back there almost even to the second sector on this particular lap. Then it's Courtney, Lowndes, Whincup, Davison, Rick Kelly, Winterbottom and Ingle. Here are the margins between the cars. There's Will Davison, he's 7th at the moment. Rick Kelly, Rick's got a bit of pressure on him at the moment from Winterbottom.
Just take a look there. Take a look on the right-hand side of the track, the white paint line. That shows you how bumpy it is. Look at it. Cars go across. And
it gets a little bumpier after that. Yeah, it's a wild ride down into there. The cars actually leap up onto the rev limiter just as you're starting to think about putting your foot on the brake pedal. And there's Jason Richards vacating that car.
I was checking out Jason's blog on the V8 Supercar website throughout the week, and that's where he made the comments that this track was mind-numbing. One of the most mind-numbing tracks we drive, he said, worse than pulling teeth. Unfortunately, Jace, it's Queensland Raceway 1. Jay Richards nil this weekend again.
I think that's the reason. It's a hate-hate relationship there. He had that horrendous rollover here a couple of years ago on the exit of turn 3, and that, I'm sure, has not helped his disposition on this racetrack. Here are the gaps.
Complete, mate. 20 laps complete.
Jason Richards out of the car. What's happened?
We got turned around early in the turn 3, and someone just smashed into the back of me and kept going. spun me around, and then someone else, I think the Jack Daniels cars, crashed into the side of me, bent the steering. So we've replaced the steering arm. There's no point, so we might as well just do a little bit of testing and then we call it a day.
What is it about you in this place? Fair dinkum.
I tell you what, there's a good reason why I hate the place, and it's because I go, you know, average here.
Look, listen, kids at home, hate is a very hard word, but in saying that, you've also got to speak the truth.
He cleaned himself up then, though. I could see we knew where he was heading. He just doesn't like it, does he?
This is getting pretty interesting between Russell Ingall and Todd Kelly. I was trying to watch both there, the interview with Jace and this, and as they came around the exit of turn 2, we were looking out the back of Russell Ingall's Caltex Ford, and there was a whole heap of dirt flying everywhere, and Todd Kelly came screaming around as well as he pushes up on the inside.
He's actually just, I think, given him a tiny little touch there.
Ooh.
And Russell retaliates, and now they'll have a bit of a squeeze on down to turn 1.
They've got a bit of space between them. Russell looking straight ahead. Todd looking into turn 1 and gets the job done. And there just shows you those last 4 laps, the kind of speed that Todd Kelly had on that car. So it was going to be a matter of time. 2 wheels off the side again for Russell Ingall.
And Russell just dropped off the wrong side of that sawtooth curbing there at turn 2. Here they go again, the replay of them coming off turn 6. All's fair in love and war. And there was just a little bump and grind there as Todd came up the inside. Russell's had pretty good pace here this weekend. They had a good couple of weeks to settle this show down because they really had an awkward round at Hidden Valley Stone Brothers Racing, and they put a lot of time, a lot of focus into just making some improvements with the cars and really steadying things down for both James and Russell. I think they're looking forward to this round. James at the moment is still 4th, and Russell is 11th now. I think he'd probably be a little bit disappointed there. His form early in the practice yesterday was very strong, and at different times over the weekend he's looked very strong, but I think he fared poorly in all that rattling that was going on in the first couple of laps of the race.
You know, it was funny after race 1 there at Darwin, or was it qualifying? Can't remember. It was such a blur for Stone Brothers Racing, and all the panels were outside the garage and they're trying to piece together James's car, and it made me stop and think, gee, they bring a lot to these events, don't they? And that's been half of the problem why they didn't bother testing. They had to not only fix up the cars and get it all pieced back together, but also restock their spares. They don't just fall out of the sky. You've got to get them all back together, and that was part of the problem. So no testing for Stone Brothers Racing coming in to this round at their home track.
Matty just been down to Fujitsu Racing and wondered when Jason Bright's coming in. He's only got 2 laps to do his compulsory pit stop in. I said, why have you left him out so long? Basically, the team have decided after that incident in turn 1 just to see if he could get some track position with clean air. It hasn't paid off, though.
And you never know, sometimes the bounce of the safety car ball may go your way and you can get a little gain out of that. So they're playing their cards right to the end of the window. But for Jason Bright, I don't know that it's going to do him any great favours at the moment.
Little pattern been developing over the last couple of rounds of the championship. They pair off in 2s about midway through the race, and it's happening yet again. Now he's trying to lasso the championship leader, and here comes Jason Bright. That completes the field of compulsory pit stops. Battered and bruised.
Clear.
Fujitsu Ford.
CPS light off. Green CPS light off.
CPS light is off.
Got a punch in the nose there on the front of that. After using the Brad Jones car the last couple of rounds, he's back in his own.
3.1 seconds is the margin between Garth Tander and Mark Scaife as Jason Bright completes his compulsory stop. Incidentally, he's just re-signed with Fujitsu as the title sponsor of that team for the period through until 2009, so that's great news for Jason and the Brightech group. And as I mentioned earlier in the telecast, this is his original chassis that we saw early in the championship before it was damaged in Perth. He's been leasing a car from Brad Jones for the interim period. Had a good test the other day with the car. He's a bit mystified as to what's going on this weekend. He hasn't had the pace that he wanted. He had a bit of a drama with the car not reaching 100% throttle in practice yesterday, and some brake issues as well that he spoke of earlier. Every now and again you get one of these shocker rounds that comes along.
So he's slotted into 21st position in between Stephen Ellery there in car 39, make that 20th position. So he gets Ellery. Behind Stephen is Andrew Jones.
It's had a fair whack in the front, as you pointed out there too, Matty. That's a pretty big crunch. A lot of response, positive response about the foot cam in these cars. We're riding here with Rick coming off turn 2. Mid-corner speed between 140, 150 k's, then 250 kilometres an hour down the back straight. Very big brake pressure applied. You can see modulating the brake across the bumps, and he carries quite a bit of brake all the way into and across the face of turn 3. Just rests a little on the clutch just to assist the shifting across the gate. Checks for brake pedal pressure before he puts maximum brake pressure in for turn 4. 130 odd k's off turn 5, building here to 215 kilometres an hour, 5th gear. This is turn 6, the last corner. Back to 2nd gear, about 75 kilometres an hour. Turns 3 and 6 share the same speed around this track. It's always very easy to punish the left rear tyre here. Got to bring the throttle in very gently. Little tap once again, flat shifting all the way down, 6th gear. Using a bit of brake just to steady the nose of the car at 2. And listen to the patience there. And you can just see how long it took him to actually get back to 100% throttle off turn 2. The brake pads in the caliper just move back ever so slightly. It might even be just thousandths of an inch sometimes, with the disc face just rattling on the pad. And the driver just puts his foot on the brake pedal to make sure that the pads are shifted up right next to the brake rotor, so that you've got a nice firm pedal when you go for the big reach and need that stopping power. It's also a safety check, and it gives you a little bit of self-confidence going into the corner that it will be there. There's been a few times over the years where blokes have gone for the brake pedal and she ain't there.
"17 out of 17 top 4 race finishes."
Concentrate on the braking, mate. Braking.
For Rick Kelly this season. But at the moment, his teammate Garth Tander is, if they stay this way, with Tander in 1st and Rick Kelly back in 7th position, Garth's going to pull back 13 odd points out of that 39-point deficit.
Neil, you've just been talking about brakes and that confidence that they'll be there. I tell you, when you look at the brake rotor temperatures, you wonder how they're there at all. Heading down the back straight, they cool off to about 600 odd degrees. I've just been watching the front rotor temps on James Courtney's car. Into the big stop into turn 3, they jumped to nearly 900 degrees. They do it again at turn 6, and then again through the maximum braking into turn 1. They're just amazing.
Yeah, they make big temperatures very quickly too. Massive amount of friction, and those drivers, certainly in the initial part of the stop, are really using a lot of force on the brake pedal. They have to reduce that as they get closer to the corner, or it tends to lock the front brakes and create brake-induced understeer where the front of the car isn't sticking to the road like the driver would like. But the whole management of the brakes, the way the driver uses them, and indeed having good brake systems on these cars, is really a fascinating process.
Well, we've seen some heartbreaking stories, particularly in that opening lap, and Cameron McConville's was probably about the worst of them, Cam. It was just a battle zone out there.
You know, brand new car and it's damaged like that. I mean, it's what happens when you qualify back with the Wallies, mate. I mean, just absolute stupidity driving. I think JB touched Jack. I think it was JB, turned him around. I lifted to miss him, and Andrew Jones just hit me so hard and pushed me into Jack, you know. And the guys that work so hard on this car, it just shouldn't happen. They should drive better than that. It's just stupid.
You're going to send John Bauer a Christmas card this year?
We've had a few run-ins this year, but we're attracted to each other like a magnet. But the message is qualify ahead of the Wallies, and it won't happen. Simple as that, mate.
Simple as that. Good on you, Cam.
Thanks for that.
Freedom of speech.
I love it. It's great.
Takes your breath away a bit, though. Now, interesting here that Garth Tander has just in the last couple of laps lost a little bit of the pace edge that he had.
Paul Wheel has got a real handful of car number 20.
It's also significant that the points gap in the championship, assuming they stay as they are now with Tander in 1st and Rick Kelly in 7th, changes accordingly, and it would reduce the margin down to 26 points.
hasn't the season turned around remarkably for this man?
I'm surprised at Triple Eight. Yeah, they had a very good test here, and they came off the back of a very strong round at Darwin, a very strong round at Eastern Creek. And pole sitter Jamie Whincup finds himself in 5th. And when I spoke to them earlier in the week, they were really encouraged by their test. They had great form, but it's not translating at the moment.
It's been panned, it's been criticised, it's bitten back. At the moment, Garth Tander leads the way.
Well, Matty, we're just writing a story of broken hearts down here in pit lane today. Lee Holdsworth, what happened to you?
Sorry, yeah, off the start I had a good start and picked up a position and came down the inside of Stephen Richards into turn 3, and unfortunately, I don't know, he must have known I was there, but he turned across me and took me out and made the guard rub on the tyre, which caused a puncture. And it's really disappointing because we got back out there and the car had really good pace. You know, we would have been able to run in the top 10, so we'll have to push for it next race.
Right, Lee, good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. I reckon Brett and Daniel Gibson are going to have to take counselling courses.
Yeah, so pump drivers back up again.
Help the guys through.
2.2 seconds now, Tander to Scaife. And 12.3 the last lap for Garth Tander, and a 12.1 for Mark Scaife. Scaife's the fastest driver out there, certainly in the top 11, and once you get out of the top 10 they drift into the high 12s. At the moment the leaders are doing lowish 12s, low to mid 12s. So Mark's got good pace now late in the race. Whether he can do much about that margin remains to be seen, but he's certainly starting to just creep in to that margin that Tander held early. Greg Murphy with bodywork loose on the back of the car.
Hillary's behind him as they go on past. Simon Wills, there's Paul Wheel. There's Andrew Jones, position 24.
Yeah, Neil, they're looking at that gap too, Toll HSV. I just spoke to Tander's engineer, Matty Nielsen. He said, yeah, the times are a little erratic at the moment. We're just telling him to keep his head down and focus and bring it home for the win.
And in this particular sector that they're on at the moment, he's actually gone punch for punch with Mark Scaife time-wise. So a bit of damage here on the back of Greg's car, and there's a stoush on it, looks like, between Greg and John Bowe, and race control are looking at that loose bodywork. I suspect that they'll bring it in and they'll have to remove that.
Well, Murph has got past John Bowe on this lap.
The reason for the sensitivity about the bodywork is that the concern is that race control doesn't want any part of any car coming off and potentially making its way into the crowd. That's the reason why it's treated very seriously and cautiously.
The Kiwi has been on the podium here twice in his career.
Nice work, mate. You've got 6 to go.
2 third placings, and he's trying to make the most out of this race. 34-year-old Kiwi. Been around now for quite some time. 13th in the championship.
Oh, huge moment for Greg on the outside of turn 2. Just as that was happening, race control were looking long and hard at the rear bumper on that car, and V8 Supercar officials have determined that they feel that it's secure enough on the back of the car that it doesn't warrant bringing it in for repair. The bumper itself is still fastened on the car. It's just the wing end on it, really. Watch this again in replay, and Murph just picks the throttle up a bit early. The car slides sideways. This is the thing I mentioned earlier in the track facts. When you get a bit hungry at turn 2 and gas up, it's amazing how that closing radius on the exit of that corner can really trap you, and you find yourself suddenly one out and one wide.
I reckon if that thing hasn't flung off by now, it's not going to, unless he gets a tap from somewhere, but he's holding up both fists and putting in a good fight.
In the first sector, the leading 3 drivers have all done a 24.8. Tander, Scaife and Courtney. And that margin stable now at 2.1 seconds between Tander and Scaife. You leant backwards then as though you were about to get a hit from Mark Winterbottom. But Matty, they don't come through the television.
Yes, they do.
That's Rick Kelly that he's attacking at the moment. And that was a big old bump going into turn 4. And this time he tries to sneak up the inside, can't get it done.
Watch for debris ahead, mate. Debris ahead at turn 6.
Okay, so something. Watch this. We need those 3D glasses. Looking like he's going through the
You
back of your
flinched again
eyeball.
in the replay.
Well, the frustration just coming through there for Mark Winterbottom. Ford Performance Racing feel the same way. They're adamant that Mark Winterbottom is being held up by Rick Kelly.
Well, he let him know there, didn't he? So Kelly is in 7th. Winterbottom obviously 8th. And those last 4 laps, I mean, they're green boxes, but you're talking about hundredths of a second.
And race control look at that stuff pretty carefully, and if they feel that anything wrong is going on, they'll give the bad sportsmanship flag.
Further up the road, Lowndes and Whincup.
Okay.
Oh, they've switched positions.
They have.
Yep, so Jamie has 4th and Craig Lowndes has 5th. They don't make it easy, do they? For us commentators, when they pair off together like that. And it's been, effectively, it's been steady as she goes since the start. This is where they settled down to, and they haven't been able to pick away only at each other because they're paired off again. Up ahead, Garth Tander has a 2.4 second lead over Mark Scaife. James Courtney is 3rd.
There's the gaps. Courtney's hung in there. In fact, he's considerably quicker than those around him in these closing stages. A 12.2 for him, a 12.6 for race leader Garth Tander. So James must have pretty good rear tyre condition on that car. This will set him up well for race 2 in the morning, tomorrow morning. So Tander, Scaife, Courtney, Whincup, Lowndes, Davison, Rick Kelly, Winterbottom, and Todd Kelly, Russell Ingall in the 10. So Lowndes making adjustments to Andy Rollbar on that car just to recover a little bit of pace.
Don't forget 2 more races to come tomorrow here on 7. And for our audiences around the world, races 2 and 3, the Sunday races this series have been quite fascinating, and there's quite a few guys up and down the field that have done much better on the Sundays. Will Davison is one. You look at his patchwork throughout the year. Saturdays haven't been good at all, but geez, brought it home really well on the Sunday in races 2 and 3. So make sure you join us tomorrow.
This is a good step up for James Courtney, who has had a couple of tough rounds. That last one at Darwin was a real confidence bender with the car upside down, and then just, you have one of those weekends that follows. So it's important for him. Good run also for Will Davison, who's 6th at the moment. A glimpse of him there behind Craig Lowndes. He continues to shine for Jim Beam Racing. He was very strong in the early part of practice yesterday. Here he is. And he's circulating at race leader pace at the moment. His teammate Stephen Johnson is in 11th place, so a little bit of a recovery there also for Stephen. These guys have definitely got some pace.
Will finishes the Sunday races beautifully. He's only had 1 Sunday race outside the top 10, so setting himself up for a good one. Rick Kelly here is going to surrender some points to his teammate.
Last lap, mate. Last lap. On forward. Todd past. Winterbottom behind.
In fact, quite a few guys who are trying to chase him down in the championship. Ingall fighting right down the very final lap. Turn 1 of lap 38. Ingall in 10th position. 15th position, by the way, belongs to Max Wilson. So that puts him in the points. His teammate Jason Bargwanna is 1 position ahead, down to turn 3.
They're both on the braking limit down there. Now Russell tries to crisscross up the inside. That makes you a little bit awkwardly positioned then when you get down to 4. These guys are having a heck of a battle.
Up the short chute to the left-hander. The double left-handers of 4 and 5. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. There's no room between them. And Russell Ingall will win that little battle, but Garth Tander will win this race.
Fantastic effort. Car was great. Excellent effort after last year's result to come back and reinforce it like that. Fantastic job.
Yes, Garth Tander won race 1 last year. Look at this. Ingle got the job done at turns 4 and 5. That was a classy move from Russell Ingle.
Winterbottom has to hold off Stephen Johnson, who was really finishing fast as well. So Ingle ends up with 9th, Winterbottom gets 10th, Johnson 11th, and here's Scaife. 2nd position, puts another 20 points in the bank. That fight back after the fall down of Winton continues, and it's been so consistent. Good result too for James Courtney, who comes in 3rd. It's been that kind of season. These guys cop a punch and they come back and stand up and fight again. It's been 2 rounds since Garth Tander won a race. He's still been in the points. And he now collects his 8th race win of 2007, and more importantly, 24 points, as opposed to his teammate there in 7th, Rick Kelly, who gets 11 points. Scaife and Courtney on the podium. Jamie Whincup went from pole to 4th, paired off with his Team Vodafone teammate. In 5th position, Craig Lowndes. Then it was Will Davison, Rick Kelly, Todd Kelly, Ingle, Winterbottom, Stephen Johnson, Paul Morris, Stephen Richards, Jason Bargwanna. Max Wilson gets 2 points for his trouble, and the rest miss out on the points. Good fight back from Greg Murphy, who ended up in 19th position after starting in 26th. And Andrew Jones, Lee Holdsworth, Jason Richards, Shane Price, Alan Gurr, Jack Perkins and Cam McConville among those who had to stop by the Mark Beretta Daniel Gibson School of Counselling in pit lane. Sets up a pretty good race day tomorrow. Another 2 races. They showed their intentions really clear from the opening laps. An ominous sign when Garth Tander has this pace beneath him.